Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss video game adaptations. Now, of course, over the decades, we've had some things done to us, I'll say. Honestly, I think that's the perfect way to put it, especially as a Resident Evil fan. I love the first movie. I want to throw that out there. Gotta get the staple out there, talk about Resident Evil. I love the first movie. I genuinely think the first Resident Evil movie is a good, B horror movie, which I think perfectly applies, to the games. Horrible as an adaptation, I can be totally honest about that. Oddly enough, I think the best adaptation for a Resident Evil movie was the second movie, which is kind of the one I hate the most. Although I think the six movies, that last movie I definitely think was the worst movie. Just horrible, just so bad. And it's not, for a long time, it's 6 movies. It took over a decade for all those movies to come out. So for a long time, that second movie was my least favorite. Despite all the madness of the entire Resident Evil film franchise, you have the first one in the mansion where it's okay, good, decent B-horror movie. There's zombies, people getting ripped apart. Okay, not Night of the Living Dead, but Day of the Dead, whatever the one in the mall is. I always forget which one that one is because of all the Dead films. But they reference the elevator scene in that, so it's got some good stuff in there. It's got some violence, it's got some gore, it's got the little amnesia mystery, Mila Jovovich, running on walls, kicking dogs in the face. I still think that's cool, as ridiculous as it is. Still think that's kind of a cool sequence. It's okay, I like this movie. And then the second one came out, and I was so excited, and I saw it on the worst bootleg of all time. You know how you can pick 144p? It was like that. It was worse than that. And then I watched the movie and also really hated it. And I always think, why did they have Mike Epps in there? Why did they have Mike Epps be really funny Mike Epps? Why is he hitting zombies and going GTA, 10 points, which is not a thing? That also bugs me. As a giant nerd, I'm you don't get points for hitting people in GTA. That's not even a thing. So, many issues there. Why did he have 2 gold guns? Took me over a decade to realize that was actually a reference to Code Veronica. I was oh my God. That was a reference to the gold Lugers. Couldn't believe it when I figured that one out. But still, despite everything that's in that film, they have Nemesis, they have, the mercenaries, Carlos, Nikolai, Mikhail. They have, Jill Valentine, which is actually really good. Had they actually bothered to do anything, they totally could have stuck with that actress. I can't think of her name right now, unfortunately. But it's man, they actually could have done something, at least with her specifically. I do think the actor for Carlos was really good. Love that guy in The Mummy. He was one of my favorites. So he did a great job there, of course. But I just always had an issue with that movie. And then every effing movie retcons the last movie. It is ridiculous. The third movie is yep, desert wasteland, Mad Max style, everybody's dead. And then the movie after that, it was yeah, everything's cool, we're kind of back to normal Earth and stuff. And I'm no, you said everything dried up on planet Earth, which is ridiculous. It wouldn't even make sense in the couple of years that they said. I'm it wouldn't fall apart like that, where the whole Earth just dried up. I'm that would not happen at all. They were in Vegas and it was a crazy sandstorm. I'm it wasn't even a decade, but whatever. So those movies are those movies. Then there was, when that was finally done, there was Welcome to Raccoon City, which disappointed me so bad. I hated the movie, outright. I could not stand that movie because of how disappointing it was, because it was all the visuals, the references that they make, and you can, of course, I have our old review for this if you want to check it out. And I'm sure I know I have videos on the old Resident Evil movies. I have no idea how many of those I actually reviewed, but you can check those out if you want to go way back in time. But the Welcome to Raccoon City movie was so painful because they had so many insane references, deep cut references, and yet the movie was horrible. The character work was just so bad that it blew my mind. I was I hate this. I even made a silly post on Instagram where it was I have had to apologize to Resident Evil Survivor. We were mean. We were really mean to Resident Evil Survivor for a long time. And then that movie came out and I was oh, yeah, we went too far. We went too far saying that Survivor was so bad. We were a little bit too mean to that. But Resident Evil, we got another one coming out. I am actually hopeful. It is by Zach Krieger, who a lot of people are going to be yeah, he's the director for, I think it was Malignant was the movie, or some other movie that he did, Barbarian, I think that was the one, which people said was actually really good. Oddly enough, I watched a review And in the review, they're like, man, this would actually be like a really interesting Resident Evil movie. And I was like, and that was after the news came out. So I was like, well, let me see what people think about that old movie. And I was like, holy crap, that's a really odd thing for me to hear, is like the first line, and when I'm like, hey, he's doing the new Resident Evil movie. A thing about Zach Krieger that, a lot of people will be like, oh, that movie. For me, he's a part of The Whitest Kids You Know, which is an old sketch comedy show I used to watch on IFC. Hilarious. If you get easily offended, probably won't say it's hilarious, but it's hilarious. It's objectively funny. You're just wrong. But anyway, we won't harp on that. But The Whitest Kids You Know, I highly recommend you check that out. It is hilarious. So I'm excited. I like Zach Krieger. I like him from that. They did have a comedy movie that they did, which didn't do too well, but I thought it was funny. I thought Miss May, or it was either Miss March. I think it was Miss March. I thought that movie was hilarious. But that's just my style of comedy. So anyway, getting back to adaptations and stuff, we have all the Resident Evil things. We had even the Netflix show, which was really bad. And now we have another movie coming out that, I want to be hopeful for, especially because I've liked that dude for over a decade, just from The Whitest Kids You Know. I always liked him. So I do hope it does well. That's all I can hope for. That's all I can hope for, is that we finally get something where someone just effing gives a crap. 100%. Not like, hey, here's all the visuals that we care about and all these deep cut references, and then we screw up the characters. I want them to just care. Just make Resident Evil 1. All of us, we say it all the time. If you're Resident Evil fans, we're very simple. Just make Resident Evil 1. Just put it in a mansion. That's it. You don't even have to do like every room. You're not going to do every puzzle. I'm not expecting you to be like, oh man, we gotta get the key code to this room, and then you go downstairs. It's like, oh, there's all these herbs in this room. Well, you have to do the zombie in the closet. Like, if you don't do that, you're not doing it right. But there's just some things that you don't have to do. It's a mansion. You can shrink it down a little bit. It's fine. But it's Resident Evil. It's a favorite franchise, and we have suffered. We have definitely suffered. And that's nothing new when it comes to adaptations. For decades, like I said, we've had both TV and movies. We've had TV shows, Nintendo, of course, being more kid-friendly. They had the cartoons back in the day, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. There was the Captain N Game Master. If you don't know what that is, you can look into that. But the simple premise is there's like a kid who goes around. I think he goes into the games, or it's either he goes into the game worlds, or he can pull in-game characters, and he goes to like crazy worlds. I think that's actually what it is. They should make that a video game. They never will, but they could honestly make like a new Captain In game with like all their franchises, and you actually interact with them as like almost as if you yourself are doing it. They could totally make that work. I don't think they'll ever do that and go back to like Captain In Game Master, but as a premise, it still works really, really well. I think they could do something cool with that, but unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna happen. So we've had cartoons back in the day. Of course, the Super Mario Brothers movie. Oddly enough, and this is gonna sound crazy, if we're like grading and all that stuff for references and things, the Super Mario Brothers movie gets a higher grade than the first Resident Evil movie. If we're being completely fair and unbiased, it's like, hey, you actually have Mario. You actually have characters that are named, from the actual games. The first Resident Evil movie, only Umbrella as a company is the only actual name that they have in the entire first film. As far as any characters and all that stuff, it is just Umbrella as a company, as a whole. The Super Mario Brothers movie has Mario, Luigi. They even went the crazy, as people like to say, based route. They went with Daisy. They didn't go with Peach. They went Princess Daisy, and I appreciate that. But they got all that stuff in there. They have actual dinosaur Yoshi, which is crazy. All sorts of really weird stuff, and the goop, and it's a crazy movie. It is definitely a crazy film. It is ridiculous. It is weird, but you just have to decide, is it weird enough that I love it, or is it so weird I hate it? And that's where you kind of have to live in that balance, because as an adaptation, it's wrong. But as a movie, it's weird and still kind of fun. So you just got to live in that balance. Obviously, I saw it as a kid, so my bias is pretty simple. The bootleg copy that we had back in the day, some of the most famous memories I have are from bootleg copies of movies we just copied off of TV. But Super Mario Brothers movie, it still has a place in my heart, but I understand that it's not exactly a joy. I mean, heck, they were getting plastered on that film anyway. If you watch behind the scenes stuff, they were drunk like all the time on that movie. So just look into that, because it's an interesting story. But for decades, we had Super Mario Brothers movie. After that, I think honestly, I don't know if Resident Evil was the very next one. I'm sure there was something in between there that I can't think of right now. But we've had movies here and there. You know, we had like Doom. Apparently there's a current Doom movie. Either it's another movie or they made like a series, something crazy. But I think there was another Doom movie that like just recently came out, which is wild. And obviously somehow it didn't do good. I mean, we've had, you know, all you gotta do is jump back to 2016. You got the revitalization of Doom. So I don't know how that happened, but Doom had its movie. Oh my God. Some of you are gonna hear this, and you might be young. You might have grown up in an era post these films, but there is a man that many of us know in the community. His name is Uwe Boll, and he made some horrible things, but he made a lot of them. And this guy was like, he was known for making like video game movies, and unfortunately, he was known for making horrible video game movies. And I have to throw out Bloodrayne instantly. Although I did hear that he made a Postal movie, and it was actually pretty good. I never saw it, but I did hear the Postal movie was actually pretty good. But Bloodrayne was horrible. And Bloodrayne is a video game about a hot vampire woman who fights Nazis. That's as simple as it gets. And that movie was so boring, I was falling asleep. I could not believe it. And then he made another one. And this was set in the Wild West, which they never actually did in the games, which I thought was actually, you know, it's a cool premise, like vampire in the Wild West. But, you know, Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, there you go. I actually really loved that movie when that came out. People act like it was dumb, but I'm like, I don't know. That was a pretty good movie. He swung an axe and blew up a tree. Abraham Lincoln, top hat. Just saying. That's a classic. But he made 2 Bloodrayne movies. They were so bad. I didn't even bother with the second one, of course, but that first movie, that killed me. I was like, how is this so horrible? I don't think they even fight in that movie. They might have like a fight at the end of the film, but no joke. A movie about a vampire who fights Nazis, I'm pretty sure doesn't have a fight scene. I don't know if it's even set during World War II. I don't remember. It's been so long since I saw that movie. There are probably a million things wrong with it, but Uwe Boll, look him up. I think it's Uwebowl. I think it's spelled Boll like normal. Normal for English, obviously. But definitely look into that if you've never heard of him, because he's done things. He's done things for sure. But we fortunately have made it to a new era. You know, we've had all of our films. You know, every once in a while you sprinkle in a TV show. Very rarely. But we mostly had our movies. And then, for once, Netflix was like, let's do something of value, and they got Castlevania. And once again, adaptation-wise, you know, I'm not really a big Castlevania guy, I don't know that much, but I know that it doesn't really follow the story of the games like wholeheartedly. It has the characters, and it does, you know, some elements here and there, but there's a lot that's not the same. I understand that, and I'm sure that matters a lot more to people that like love, you know, the Castlevania games, of course. But for me, the Castlevania series is absolutely amazing. I haven't finished Nocturne. I do need to watch Nocturne Season 2. But just the first series, just ridiculous. Absolutely god-tier animation, first off. Like, the fight sequences are so good. Like, Season 3, of course, is the season where, like, they kind of do this weird pseudo reboot of the show a little bit because something big happens. And so that's the season that everyone feels like, you know, I can totally understand. It's definitely like a bit of a dip because they really do like rebuild the show for Season 4, and then it blows right back up in Season 4 once, you know, all the building from Season 3 starts to pay off. But they do a thing at the end of Season 3 where they still do like the insane, you know, season finale action and all that stuff, and it was crazy. Absolutely amazing. And the story was still good for Season 3. It's just not what you might expect considering how the show moves. It's definitely like I said, it's literally like a reboot of the entire show in the 3rd season of the show. But, you know, it makes sense. Like, going into it, just know that if you haven't watched it yet. But the story itself for Season 3 is still actually really, really good. But it's 100% like the build-up season to Season 4. So you can kind of almost watch it like Seasons 1 and 2 are together, and then Seasons 3 and 4 are together as well. If you could, if somebody did like a crazy edit, you could definitely make that into like 2 movies. Well, I guess 3 movies, because the first season is only 4 episodes anyway. It's already like a 2-hour movie itself. But the Castlevania adaptation is absolutely amazing. League of Legends, everyone loves that adaptation. Once again, totally different from, you know, just playing League of Legends. Like, it's funny, it's like I don't think anyone that loves that show is gonna really, you know, maybe a small percentage, but not a lot of people are gonna be like, man, let me try out League of Legends and be like, oh yeah. So I don't think that's, unfortunately, I don't know if that'll get too many numbers on them, but it, make people pay enough attention. Maybe that, sell more merch at least. But that's great. Once again, haven't seen season 2 yet. I know I'm way behind on that one, but I do want to watch season 2. But that's a great adaptation. Season 1 was amazing, incredibly well written. Like I said, same with Castlevania. I like Castlevania Nocturne, not as much as like, the first series of Castlevania. Although I did hear like how crazy season 2 got, and animation and action wise, they never fell. I think the story was good, of course, but I just didn't like it as much, but I still enjoyed it. And I am excited once again to see how Nocturne ends, see how League of Legends ends up going. I'm excited. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's a number that I can put on Devil May Cry having another anime. Like, I'm a huge Devil May Cry fan. I've actually watched the original anime that there is, so if you haven't seen that, you can check that out. But Devil May Cry is definitely up there. Obviously, once again, Capcom, Resident Evil. Resident Evil is the reason we have Devil May Cry. So, I love Devil May Cry. I'm super excited. I've avoided everything. The only thing I know is that the intro song, for whatever insane reason, is Limp Bizkit's Rollin'. But I haven't watched the trailer. I haven't watched the opening. I know they did like a thing where it's like the first couple minutes or whatever. I have skipped everything. I saw the initial trailer where they said, I saw the release date trailer, which didn't have, which wasn't the intro trailer that they did. And that was it. Like, once I found out the date, I was like, all right, that's all I need. I stayed away from everything. I did hear about the fact that Kevin Conroy actually has a voice in this, which is crazy. I could not believe that. I thought we heard his last line from, the last, like, Infinite Crisis film. So that's super cool. I don't know. Once again, I didn't look into it because I didn't want to even know. So I don't know who he's playing or what. But I'm excited to hear Kevin Conroy's voice. I would assume this will officially be like the last time I hear something new for Kevin Conroy. So that's actually really exciting. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy crap, Kevin Conroy is in Devil May Cry. So I'm excited for that. And I know, because once again, it's the internet, but I know the main man is in there. I know I saw his face. I know I saw the motivation. So I can't wait for that. I don't know what that means, but we are going Castlevania style, but for Devil May Cry. It's something that I've waited for a long time. So like I said, I might not seem like overly excited, but I've stayed away from everything and I'm waiting. I'm just letting it build up. And when that show drops, I guarantee I'm not missing that. That might make me catch up on everything else. Although Cobra Kai didn't, because I did finish Cobra Kai and then I was like, all right, I'm good. And I didn't go back to Netflix, which is mostly because of that stupid household thing where it's like, this ain't the right house. And I was like, I just don't care. I'll just watch something else. Like, I get so tired of that. But adaptations have definitely hit a new era. Fallout, I do have to just straight up say Fallout. I loved that show. I absolutely loved it. I'm curious if they're gonna do season 2 the same way they did season 1, where they drop it all at one time. I would love it, but the show is so good, they could totally do week to week. 100%, they could get a lot of views. Because, it's the usual thing like, oh, do we do week to week? Do we do, drop it all at one time? And Amazon doesn't normally do that, which is really the most surprising thing about it. Like, they don't do that for their show, so it was shocking that they did for Fallout. But I was happy because I'm like, this show is so effing amazing. Like, and once again, Fallout is another franchise that I really love. And that's one of those things where I love Fallout right when it comes out. Like, outside of that, I'm not like, oh, I'm thinking about Fallout, day and night. I know all the whole timeline and all that stuff. When the new game comes out, most of the time I'm pretty excited. 76 definitely didn't do the job for me. And I know it's gotten better. Technically, I even own it for free because I got it from something. So I think it was Twitch Prime. So I know I have it. I just haven't started it, and that's mostly because it's Fallout. I'm not trying to start like a massive game right now. If I'm doing the backlog, it's got to be like linear story. Let's do this 5-hour indie game type stuff. I'm not trying to do another Fallout, especially when that's online. I can't jump into that right now. But Fallout was a masterpiece, in my humble opinion. So I cannot wait for season 2. Very excited to see what in the world they do with New Vegas. Do we get the death clause? What references are they gonna make? I never beat New Vegas, so maybe I need to, when they officially announce that, I might have to finally do that modded run of New Vegas that I've been wanting to do for years. So we'll see what happens. Technically, I did start. I probably got I think I might have nearly a dozen hours in Fallout New Vegas, and then I fell off at some point. And then I loaded that thing, and I was just on a freeway in broad daylight, and I was like, yeah, I gotta restart the game. That's unfortunate. But Season 2 is coming. I'm excited for that. We're in an era where things are good. I can't believe I went this whole time without referencing, of course, the Sonic films. Oh man, Sonic 3 was crazy. Love that movie. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait for the next one. But I've made it to work now, so I'm gonna just go ahead and cut things here because I would love to know your adaptations that you enjoy. What needs an adaptation? There's something. Like I would love to know what you guys think needs to be adapted. I mean, let's face it. It's still scary to be like, oh, I would love to see this adapted. I would love to see Resident Evil adapted. I have to wait and see what happens, but we've had it like 6, 7, 8 effing times if you include the Netflix series, which once again, I don't understand. You have a game that's already made. What do you need to change? Nothing. Nothing at all. The script is, well, I mean, maybe not the script, but the setting and the overall story is there. You know, maybe not the exact script, obviously going Resident Evil 1. Although if you hit with the Resident Evil 1 remake, you're probably good for the most part. You need a little bit more interaction, but I gotta wait, I have to hope. But I would love to know your thoughts on video game adaptations, the greats, the tragedies, the hope, what comes in the future. I would love to know what you guys want to see, what you guys think of the ones that we've had so far. Which ones haven't you guys checked out? If you haven't seen Fallout, I'm telling you, you are missing out on an amazing show. Even if you don't like the games, I think you can enjoy the show just because it's an incredibly well-written show. I enjoy it more because I actually like Fallout, and it's also canon to the actual games for anyone that might not have known that. So if you aren't a Fallout person, you can still enjoy that show, unless you just truly hate like the whole aesthetic of the entire thing, I guess. But that show is great. Plus it has, you know, Walton Goggins in it. I loved it. Justified? Come on. 10 out of 10, let's be honest. So watch Justified. Jesus, that show is so good. Watch Justified. Just to throw that one out there. But I'm gonna end this one. So I would love to know your thoughts. Like I said, all adaptations, the good, the bad, the hopeful. What should we get? What should we never ever get? Cuphead has a great one. I haven't actually watched it, but my daughter actually loves that show. So I also haven't played the game. But Cuphead, like 2, I think it might even have 3 seasons, honestly. So there's a lot out there that's actually pretty decent. And I mean, Five Nights at Freddy has a second movie coming out. There's so much. There's so much out there. So I would love to know what you guys want to see adapted, what you guys think of the adaptations we have, and just adaptations in general. Like, what are your thoughts on that? So please, put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.